Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Today I have 4 Reddit stories for you guys. All credit goes to the original posters of the stories, and I will link their stories in the description. First story is, they never truly leave you. Every day I roll over and reach for her, but the bed is empty as usual. It's been 476 days since I lost my family. 476 days of misery and pain. When I say I lost my family, that's truly what happened. They are just gone. Or at least they were gone. I remember it like it was yesterday. I got home from work at about 4:45, like always, and the last I heard from my wife, she had picked the kids up from school and they were going to the grocery store. Should be home around 5:30 is what her last text said. 5:30 came and passed with no word. I wasn't worried at this point, as it was 5:30 on a weekday, so the stores were probably packed. 6 passes and still no word. I still wasn't too worried, but dread was slowly starting to creep into my thoughts. My wife, Margaret, is, or was, I still haven't come to grips with stuff like this yet. The kind of person that runs on her own time. A free spirit, some would call her. When we first met, it was kind of cute, forgetting about a date because her plants needed attention, or being a little more than fashionably late to an event because she saw the cutest puppy on the way to the car. But now, with 2 kids and various school athletic family things as well as day-to-day life stuff, it got to be a bit frustrating. However, that coupled with having our 9-year-old William and 11-month-old Lily with her, I simply just shot her an "everything okay" text, no response. The clock struck 7, and that's when I started to panic. I texted, got no response. I called over and over, but it went straight to voicemail every time. That's when I decided to start searching. I hopped in my truck and raced to the grocery store. As I circled the parking lot, I spotted her car, which filled me with a bit of hope. I parked close and started looking around, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I peeked in the windows, and again, nothing strange. Maybe they're just still inside. I went inside and scoured every aisle. Looking in the bathrooms, even showed the folks on the front desk a picture to see if they had seen them. Nothing. There was an older lady at the front desk who took some pity on me and led me to the security office, where she said we can take a look at the security footage and see if they had made it in the store. At 4:30, her car pulls in the grocery store parking lot, parks in the same spot where I found it, but they never get out. We watch the footage sped up from 4:30 to the moment my truck pulls in, and nobody ever leaves the car. Old gal immediately called the police, and hours after waiting for them and then answering 100 questions, all the while I'm calling her phone, even though it keeps going straight to voicemail. The lead officer put a hand on my shoulder and told me to go home and get some rest. They will be in touch. That was 476 days ago. My wife and kids seemingly just vanished from the face of the earth. I live in a mid-sized city, so there was the initial search and the media frenzy. White mom and cute white kids go missing in dangerous city story writes itself. But after a few weeks and other stories took precedent, everybody kind of just moved on, police included. I was devastated, a shell of myself. I took leave from my job, which turned into extended leave, which turned into them telling me if I didn't start showing up, they would have to let me go. I never responded. Past due bill notices piled in my mailbox. My electricity got cut. I was basically squatting in my own house. I really didn't snap out of it until there was an accident in my well-overgrown front yard. The mortgage company sent somebody out to assess the property since the bill hadn't been paid in some time, and I met the poor fella in the front yard with a fully loaded AK-47. Police were called. Nobody was hurt, but I was arrested and sent to a psychiatric facility for a bit, and my parents stepped in and bought my house. They said I could continue living there, but would have to get my shit together, which I did. It's been 147 days since I was released from the psych ward. I got a part-time job, adopted a puppy, a beagle mix. The kids would have loved her. And I was doing really, really well. Was being the key word there. It was 3 days ago when I first noticed it. I woke up, rolled over, and reached for her, but the bed was empty as usual. I got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom, and I saw it. My son's door standing wide open. I hadn't been in there in months. I kept both the kids' rooms exactly like they left them. Toys on the ground, beds unmade, clothes folded but not put away, etc. But I was fanatical about keeping the door shut. I peeked inside of his room and it was clean. Not spotless or anything like that, but the bed had been made, clothes put away, and toys put in the toy box. I was furious. My initial assumption had been that my parents sent somebody over here to clean up and they accidentally went in there. But then I distinctly remembered saying goodnight to a closed door the night before, as I do every night. That's when I saw it. In the middle of the floor sat a weird-looking doll. It almost looked like a Cabbage Patch doll, but slightly off. I don't really know how to explain it, but all of its features were just slightly blurred. I slowly shut the door and walked to my daughter's room. Initially, it looked shut, but was slightly opened. I poked my head in and saw a similar scene. Instead of a clean room, it looked like a bomb went off in there. Toys everywhere, dresser drawers rifled through, blankets and crib sheets all over the place, and right there in the center of the room, a slightly off-looking doll. Needless to say, I freaked out and rushed to my parents' house. I told my parents everything, and they rightfully assumed I was having another mental breakdown. How could they not? After the 4th or 5th, sure, bud. I bet that did happen. I convinced my dad to come take a look. We get to the house and I was almost giddy to prove I wasn't crazy, but as I opened the boys' bedroom, it looked almost like it did before it got cleaned up. I raced to my daughter's room and same thing, exactly how it had been for 476 days. I crumpled to the floor, devastated. I had been doing so well, I didn't want to go back to treatment. My dad put his hand on my shoulder, sighed, and helped me off the floor and walked me to my bed. Listen, I understand it's got to be hard for you, but you have to keep flying straight. We'll chalk this up to a minor setback, but I'm going to start keeping a closer eye on you. If you start to go backwards, I am going to have to take you back to the hospital. I nodded and put a pillow over my head until I was certain he was gone. I took the pillow off my head and just laid there for the rest of the day. I watched the sunset and sky grow dark as tears slowly rolled down my cheek, as they did every night. I got up to do my nightly routine of making sure the house was locked up, pup was all set, and lastly saying goodnight to the closed doors of my children. First was William. I put my hand on the door and whispered, "Goodnight, buddy. I love you so, so much and miss you every single goddamn day. I wish I could see you just one more time." As I walked away, I could swear I heard a faint whisper, somebody talking back to me. But after what happened earlier, I figured it was best to leave it alone. Next was Lily. I said the same thing as I said at William's door, and again as I walked off, a faint whisper. I immediately went to my room, popped some sleeping pills, said goodnight to Margaret, and closed my eyes as tight as possible. As I drifted off into a sweet, pharmaceutical-induced sleep, I swear I felt somebody brush my hair to the side and whisper goodnight in my ear. Crash, thud, 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 slam, slam, were the sounds that woke me up the next day. I rolled over and reached for her, but the bed was empty as usual. What the hell was that? I said to myself. I got up and made my way to my bedroom door, cracked it open and peered up and down the halls. Nothing. I decided I needed to get out of the house for the day. I didn't have to work until the next day, and the puppy needed to get some outdoor time, so I decided we'd go to the park and just make a day of it. I pulled a dirty shirt on, as well as the jeans I had been wearing for the past few days, and made my way out of the living room. What I saw stopped me in my tracks. Sitting at the dining room table were the same 2 dolls I had seen the day before, but this time there was a third, slightly larger than the other 2, but with the same blurred facial features. Laid out around them was a large breakfast consisting entirely of plastic food and plastic dishes. A backpack sat next to the male doll, and my daughter's favorite blanket was tied around the neck of the small female doll like a cape. All the while, the puppy doing circles around the table, nose to the ground, then up to the dolls, and back to the ground. I didn't know what to do. I just stood there and stared. Finally, when my wits returned, I called the pup, and we quickly left the house. I walked around the rest of the day in a daze. Surely somebody is messing with me. What kind of person would do this? The only person I ever wronged was the guy from the mortgage company, but I never hurt him, and I faced my consequences for that. When I made it back home, all the lights in the house were on, and the front door was standing wide open, with the glass storm door shut. A welcome sight I was used to coming home to 477 days ago, but not since. Margaret's car, which had been gathering dust and dirt, looked like it did the day she drove it off the lot. The front yard had been cut, and Margaret's black-eyed Susans in the front yard bed had been meticulously weeded and looked better than they ever had. My heart raced, my throat got dry, and I felt the all too familiar feeling of tears welling in my eyes. I ran to the front door and burst in the house. Margaret! Margaret! William! But no response. I looked around, and at the table was the male doll with his backpack and paper strewn about. The small female doll sat in Lily's high chair with plastic food laid out in front of it, and in the kitchen was the bigger doll, standing on a stool at the stove, with empty pots sitting on each eye. I quickly picked the puppy up and slowly backed myself into my bedroom. I didn't even bother with my nightly routine. I just popped some more sleeping pills, curled up with the puppy, and forced myself to sleep. I woke up the next day, reached over for her, but the bed was empty as usual. The smell of coffee made me sit up instantly. When I got my bearings, I saw a cup of coffee sitting next to me, 3 dolls at the foot of the bed, and my dad standing in the bedroom doorway. Hey bud, how are you feeling? You, get into something last night? Huh? What are you talking about? Not to sound rude, but what are you doing here? I asked. Well, I've been here since last night. Your mother got a call from Margaret's cell phone last night, and it was pretty strange. She said it sounded like an old staticky recording of Margaret's voice. I thought you got that deactivated. Worried the hell out of your mother. She said the voice sounded like it was saying it was worried about you. I came over and found the house locked up like Fort Knox, and you passed out in your bed. You, been doing some coping exercises? Something with these creepy dolls? Found them all sitting on the couch watching a movie when I came in, and this bigger one was holding Margaret's old cell. What? Yeah, coping exercises. It helps me not feel so alone, I lied, not wanting to see his face become more saddened by what he was seeing. Okay, well, just don't call your mother from that phone again. Get up, you've got work. Then this afternoon I want to help you get your yard cleaned up and that old car out of the driveway. And then I think you should come stay with us for a few days. Might do you some good too, and not be alone with some actual people. Thanks, Dad. I really appreciate it, but I think I'm okay. I should really get in the shower. Been a few days. He looked at me, then back to the dolls, then back to me and said, Okay, son, but just think about reconsidering. Give me a call when you get off, and we can talk a little bit further. Want me to stick around until you leave? Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dad. I got dressed and ready to go. Told my dad I needed to check something real quick and went back to my room to see what the dolls were doing. Just sitting there like regular dolls, but I swear when I left the bedroom earlier, they were facing the other direction. Now they were all staring at me. I said an awkward goodbye, and again I swear I heard a whispered unison goodbye. The rest of the day went by without incident. Though it was incredibly hard to focus, I made it to the end of my shift and felt something I hadn't in a long time. I was excited to go home, a little scared, but excited to see what they had done today. Excited at the thought of what kind of homework doll William had, and if he needed help. Excited to see what kind of mess doll Lily had made, and excited to see what doll Margaret was making for dinner. Was I losing my mind? I'd completely skipped over finding out if somebody was messing with me, to full-blown doll family excitement. I raced home with a smile on my face and my chest pounding, only to have the feeling slip away upon pulling up to my house. In the driveway sat my dad's car, with him sitting on the front porch. Hey, what's up, Dad? Sorry, I think I'm just going to stay home tonight. I'll be okay, I promise. Son, we need to talk. I got a call from William's school today. They said they received a phone call from somebody claiming to be Margaret, saying that William wouldn't make it to school today because he was sick. Listen, I know this has been really tough on you, but this has got to stop. I think it's best if we get you back in the treatment. It broke my heart to see him like this, to watch his son free fall into what he thought was pure insanity. I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, Dad, let me go inside and get a few things." I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and quickly shut the door behind me, locking it up tight. I heard him banging on the door, shouting my name, pleading with me to come out, but all I cared about was finding my family. I mean the dolls. I needed to see them. Sure enough, there they were, sitting at the table. Doll William working on some tough-looking math, Doll Lily with her blanket and favorite stuffed animal, and Doll Margaret cooking up something I'm sure they all would enjoy. I peeked out the window and saw my dad drive off, probably the last time I would ever see him. It's okay though, I've got my family. I woke up this morning, reached over for her, and there she was, right next to me, a little smaller, a little softer, and a little quieter, but there, none the less. The Watching Girl. Alright, so I apologize in advance for not having specific dates. I was too afraid to write things down because she watches me. Also, I consider myself a psychic medium because I can see fuzzy figures of ghosts and I can hear entities in my head. So, about a year ago, I started feeling a fuzzy figure of a small girl standing at the foot of my bed almost every night. She scared the crap out of me, and every night I would lay there and just stare at her as she watched me. She never did anything else, she just stood there, but I could feel her watching me. She never appeared as a full figure, but I know she is a little over 4 feet tall, and she always wears a blue summer dress with sunflowers. Her hazel-colored hair goes halfway down her back, no bangs, and middle part. Her eyes are dark brown. About 3 months into the sightings, I saw the figures again. There was a mother who was standing at the right side of the bed, while the girl was on the left, and the father sat in my desk chair that is to the left of my bed. They were all fuzzy figures, as the girl always is. I never saw the family again. A while later, the girl disappeared for a week or two. I thought she was gone, and my parents never believed that the girl was ever there, as she doesn't like adults. Then she appeared again, this time right next to my pillow on the right side of my bed. I wonder if she ever left because I only checked the foot of my bed. The only reason I knew she moved was because I woke up, checked the foot of my bed, and then rolled onto my side and saw her. I don't believe she intends to harm me. She is just there. What makes it worse is that whatever I bring my parents, she disappears, and she doesn't appear on camera. Edit. So a couple people that I know ask me how I communicate. The way I communicate with the ghost is I ask a question, like, what is your name? And then either a name will just pop into my head like Anna, or I'll hear a voice other than my own say the name. I'm also pretty sure her name is Izzy or Hazel. A humanoid creature in my home. I tried posting it on another account that I created today, and this post got deleted. I'm assuming because my account was new. If this one gets deleted as well, I won't try to post it, sorry. I'm writing this post as I just remembered an experience I had when I was around 12 years old. I'm 21 now, so it was quite a long time ago. I want to know if anyone else has had a similar one. I haven't been able to explain it to this day. It was definitely the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. It's also kind of out there. Nobody believes me to this day. Also, excuse any typos or anything like that. English is my second language. Anyway, this happened sometime in July 2013. I woke up around 2 to 3 a.m. and I couldn't fall back asleep. I started looking around my room. I was contemplating getting on my computer, but was too lazy to actually get up. So I just lay there until something caught my attention in the hallway. My door was slightly open, so I could see just a little bit. Before I tell you what I saw, let me give you a quick picture of what my house looked like back then. When you exited my room, there was this long hallway in the middle of it. To the left was the entrance to the kitchen, and the right in front of it, to the right was the back door to the bathroom. At the end of the hallway back then was the front door with a little window on top, so the moonlight kind of seeped in. It must have been a full moon or close to it, because I could see the hallway was decently lit. Anyway, what caught my attention was a small head peeking at me behind the slightly open door. It was really close to the ground. At first, I didn't really think much of it, and after a short while, I thought to myself that it must be my dog. My dog is a Maltese. He's small, and back then he used to sleep above my head on my pillow, so I reached my hand up to see if he's there, and sure enough, he was sleeping there. That's when I got kind of confused. We didn't have any other animals in the house, and I lived with my mom and my grandpa. Both of them were asleep, and they sure wouldn't peek at me in the middle of the night on what seemed like all fours. So I quickly looked back at the door, and I saw this thing hide behind the door. I don't know how long I laid there in shock, but eventually I decided to get up and investigate, aka run to my mom's room. I quickly got up and ran to the light switch, turned the light on, and fully opened the door, and when I did, I saw the thing's legs. It was entering the kitchen. It was on all fours, and it didn't run. It seemed like it didn't even care about me as it was moving, kind of slow, like it was taking a casual walk. Its skin was grayish, and it looked like it was dirty. It had these black spots on it, maybe dirt, I don't know. Its legs were skinny and lanky. Once again, I was paralyzed. I don't even know if I was scared at the moment. I think I was just shocked at what I was seeing. When it disappeared in the kitchen, I ran to the bathroom and locked myself there. I didn't come out for a long time, and when I did, nothing was there. Nothing woke up either, not even my dog. He always chases people when they run. I have no idea what it was. All I know is that I for sure wasn't dreaming. I'll never forget the feeling in my stomach when I saw this thing. Does anyone have any similar experiences? The last one is called Living in the Deep Forest as a Kid. When I was in my early teens, me and my family moved into a cabin owned by my father's boss for a whole year. He worked at a logging mill in northern Minnesota, about 100 miles from Canada. The cabin was a few miles from the mill. Other than a gasoline generator located in a small shack outside, we had no electricity, nor running water, or any modern amenities. I was no stranger to the forest or nocturnal forest adventures at this point, so living here wasn't so bad from the outside looking in. But the first sense of this place you get is a strong sense of being watched and the absolute dead silence. These two factors alone would remain 24/7 norm at this place, in the sense that this atmosphere never really changed unless it was storming, to the point where while me and my siblings were at school and my dad at work, my mom would hide away during broad daylight because of the sense of describing hearing what sounded like someone jumping and crawling on the sheet metal roof occasionally. To the main course of the story, most of my experience there came at night, where more often than not, I would always be the last one to sleep. When this would happen, there would be the shadowy figures at the windows outside this living room or outside my bedroom window. I remember so many nights where I would be paralyzed with fear, true fear, feeling like this figure's gaze on me, with an almost telepathic sense that the figure was communicating with me with a language of emotions. There were many opportunities for me to be taken alone, but I can't remember a ton of what would happen on my 1.5-mile walks from the bus would drop me off. For the longest time, my father, he was a seasoned hunter and former linebacker in high school, never believed me as a kid until one night he asked me to dump the sink bucket outside. I refused because it was dark and that those things were out there. He scoffed it off, having a few drinks in him, let me out the front door while I held the bucket and got 2 feet out before something heavy booked it through the forest like a bulldozer from right outside the door, sending my father back inside and pushing me. In another instance was with my younger brother while exploring a game trail. We were approaching a cutout in the forest for power lines when something screamed at us, and my dad got us out of there. A scream that mimicked a woman, screaming bloody murder, but with the ferocity and power of an elephant. It went right through you like the strongest dose of infrasound possible. Another strange event to my father. Oh, and every morning my mom would start the generator so we could get ready for school, and before she would, something would smack the generator shack and take off into the forest, scaring the hell out of my mom. First time posting on Reddit. You guys ever experienced this? Thank you for listening. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing and liking my channel, and I will see you on the next one.